with either Archie or Lily, and it needs to happen. They need to prove that those children and Harry are not entitled to privacy in this matter, and their privacy is trumped by our right to know that no bastard is going to sit on the throne of this country. All Harry and Meghan need to do is prove to us that she popped those babies out. And that's all they need to do. And if they don't, it is unfair on the children. It's also unfair on the royal family.
As we've seen Meghan Markle put out more and more content connected to her children, whether that's the pregnancy video that made the entire world cringe from secondhand embarrassment.
Doctor looked up, her mouth set in a particular way. Things were getting serious. I said to Meg, my love, you need a push.
Did Meghan Markle use a surrogate? That's been something posited literally for well over 3 years when it comes to her firstborn son Archie and even her daughter Lilibet. And many people even wonder, are their children even real?
Did Buckingham Palace or Prince William set a trap for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, and were they gullible enough to fall into it?
This is absolutely insane that they thought they could get away with it, especially Meghan Markle and Harry. The con of the century, 2 cons of the century in the form of 2 royal children included in the line of succession.
Whole description she does of the Portland hospital, the birth, that was completely fabricated. We all know, the first interview was, we all know that she never intended to go to the Portland hospital. She intended to have the baby at home.
That Meghan put on her Instagram feed earlier this week with Archie in the garden. What did you see?
But I had to take my children to Professor Bolstrop, who was the leading expert in the field at that time, at the Chelsea and Westminster Hospital it was, and he was going to be investigating. And of course, you know my boys, so you know they're very spirited. That she has that child in a vice-like grip. And it's, you know, if they were a husband and wife team, there are laws now about coercive control.
Behind Buckingham Palace's gates, something strange is taking place. Something colder, quieter, and far more serious than a gossip or tabloid noise. Insiders claim that senior advisors have started what they refer to as an internal verification review related to Archie and Lily. Furthermore, such a step is almost unimaginable for the monarchy. Uncertainty is despised by the crown. It is more afraid of misunderstanding regarding ancestry than scandal. It is possible to abolish responsibilities and titles. However, there are concerns regarding ancestry.
Everything she's done has only drawn more speculation and brought the controversies back up about how Meghan and Harry have handled all of this, as well as the rumors that perhaps they used a surrogate for one or both of the children.
The institution as a whole becomes strained because of those. Because this is the one rule that the monarchy has adhered to for generations. There must be no question about the succession plan. Why now then? Why bring up the one subject that the palace often ignores? According to sources, a number of discrepancies eventually became unavoidable. Not overt errors, but subtle ones. Incomplete information, erratic documentation, and processes that fell short of royal expectations. Little items that appear innocuous on their own yet, when combined, form a pattern.
Where are the children? Where are Harry and Meghan's kids? And do they honestly exist? Now, I know that that's kind of like a little bit conspiratorial, but you know what? I'm down the rabbit hole now since I've accepted the moon bump story. And if the moon bump story was true and she didn't actually have these pregnancies, then is it possible that she has faked having the kid?
And when senior authorities saw that pattern, the palace surreptitiously began excavating. Archie's birth certificate, the first official document connected to the Sussex children, was their first stop. For most families, a birth certificate is just paperwork. It is the first official identifying certificate for anybody who could potentially be close to the line of succession and a constitutional record for the royal family. Everything on the document is intended to be uniform, lasting, and clear. But Archie's birth certificate was falsified. There was a slight change a few months after his birth. Meghan's entire legal name, Rachel Meghan Markle was removed.
California Birth Index, and per the website at thecaliforniabirthindex.org, the California Birth Index, or CABI, is a database that stores records of births in California for extracts of birth certificates. Putting her full official name of Rachel Meghan Markle, you can see that the official records show
Only the title Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex, appeared in its place. Just the Crown-approved style, no first name or last name. Such an edit is not just uncommon, but practically unheard of in the royal bureaucracy. The change must be filed by someone. It has to be approved by someone. It has to be logged by someone. Additionally, there must be a compelling argument for changing a future royal's basic record. However, something didn't add up when detectives re-examined that incident. The explanations were inconsistent. According to Meghan, the palace asked for the modification. Meghan's side lobbied for it. According to palace sources, there was no cohesive narrative, and more crucially, there was no obvious paper trail showing the necessity of the edit.
Even though Meghan had let it be known she wanted a home birth, it was probably very realistic that her first child at 37, it was going to be born in hospital.
So at the time, Archie Mountbatten Windsor was born May 6, 2019.
Furthermore, ambiguity poses a greater threat to the palace than controversy. Why was the certificate changed at all if it was just changed once? What else was missing from Archie's early timeline? These inquiries forced the review to go all the way back to the day of his birth. After retrieving Archie's certificate, palace employees started reconstructing the events leading up to his birth. At that point, the second wave of anomalies emerged. Small elements that didn't match the royal pattern, not big errors or scandals. Details are often handled with military precision by the monarchy. The announcement came first.
Meghan and Harry did instead was they did not announce it when Meghan went into labor, for whatever reason. They kept Archie's birth private for over 8 hours. They did not tell people that he was actually born and arrived until 8 hours later. They also issued a confusing press release suggesting Meghan had just gone into labor after Archie had already been born. So they were playing games here with this. And the result was that the media and the public felt misled because they were misled.
For decades, every royal infant has been born in the same order. A palace broadcast, an official medical declaration, a verified birth, and a controlled picture opportunity follow. However, the sequence seems to be inverted with Archie. Before any conventional confirmation emerged, the world found out he was born. It took hours for the specifics to become clear, and even then they were ambiguous. Days later, there was a brief appearance that appeared produced rather than ceremonial, with no hospital steps or confirmed witness accounts.
They decide, okay, well, we have to come out and show the baby in some way, but we're not coming out to the street. The filthy masses are not going to have anything to do with our kid. So then they show up, and there's Meghan in her white dress with Harry, and he's holding this completely still baby.
Then there was misunderstanding about the site. One hospital was mentioned in the early reports. Subsequent remarks alluded to another. Additionally, employees apparently struggled to fit the time frame with customary royal processes behind closed doors. Midwives, doctors, and high-ranking authorities typically sign and observe important events during royal deliveries. Everything must be documented, therefore it is. However, gaps were discovered when palace investigators examined Archie's timeline. Not enough to accuse someone of misconduct, but enough to raise concerns about whether the procedure adhered to royal standards.
That it just really kind of boggles the mind. I mean, just for titles, for example. So when Archie was first born, they said they didn't want him to have a title. He was going to be a private citizen. I was like, bravo, you understand. He's not going to be a working member of the royal family. He is going to have to live a normal life, get a normal job. That is fantastic. And then it came out later in the Oprah Winfrey interview. Well, they denied him a title and security because he is a mixed race child. And then it was kind of and then later she kind of backtracked.
Lilith's chronology was completely different from Archie's. Eyebrows were raised by Archie's peculiar documentation. However, the birth of Leet brought forth a degree of uncertainty the palace had never experienced before. Only Meghan and Harry's crew in California made the announcement of her arrival. No palace announcement, No royal medical personnel, no British physicians, no typical easel outside Buckingham Palace, and not even a royal household confirmation. Rather, a polished press statement and a few carefully chosen images were sent to the public. That would be typical for any other famous person. It's a departure from hundreds of years of tradition for a child descended from royalty.
Meghan just went into labor when really Archie had been born for several hours at that point is a foolish game to play. And it only diminished credibility and trust, and it honestly made people kind of mad and irritated about the situation, because it's like, well, why would you do that? Why are you lying to people? Why are you trying to mislead people?
Medical experts authorized by the sovereign usually verify royal births. Documents are filed right away. Witnesses are recorded. The location has been verified. However, none of those well-known pillars were apparent with Lilibet. And the inconsistencies grew as detectives pieced together the chronology. Even Zoom calls and paparazzi photos of Meghan during her pregnancy didn't provide a clear image. She appeared further along in some pictures, but not at all in others. These specifics would be meaningless on their own. They increased the palace's anxiety when paired with the absence of royal records, and Buckingham Palace's quiet made everything seem weird. Nothing was challenged or verified by them. They did nothing except observe. However, the birth wasn't the greatest warning sign. It was what followed. Lilibet's baptism was the occasion that ought to have permanently bound her to the monarchy. Advisors have to review a far more significant matter before the palace could even consider the baptismal problem.
You know, Harry and Meghan they would refuse to kind of show him. They finally kind of showed him off in South Africa, and it was very much, kind of a display, and she went to the polo match, and again, people wondered because it's like, she just didn't, it was a very stiff way she was holding him. It was just looked odd, and you looked at her and compared her to Kate, and you can't help the comparisons. And Kate is playing with baby Louis, and he's, kissing her, trying on sunglasses, and Meghan does not even look at Louis at all, and Louis looking at her.
The rules that establish who qualifies as a royal kid and who does not. The 1917 letters patent entered the discussion at this point. A dull historical record that took on immense significance all of a sudden. It specifies which of the monarch's descendants are eligible for royal titles and recognition, and was written during King George V. However, there's a far more significant idea hidden behind that archaic vocabulary. Being a royal is not symbolic. It needs to be verified. A kid must fulfill a number of requirements in order to be acknowledged by the monarch. 1. A pedigree that the monarchy is able to thoroughly record. 2. A birth that adheres to customary royal protocol. 3. Confirmations and ceremonies carried out by the Church of England. These customs are not optional. These are constitutional protections and regulations intended to avoid misunderstandings, disagreements, or challenges to the crown. These instructions are often simple to follow.
Sussex, no longer HRH, was safely delivered of a son, and she and her child are both doing well. So back to the tradition of putting out a framed bulletin or a gilded easel outside Buckingham Palace after royal births has been going on since 1837, so it's a cool tradition. And George, Charlotte, and Louis' easels listed the doctors' names with signatures, birth weight and time, and referenced the royal family. But Archie's notably only included mention of the Queen and the royal family in the wording, but not on the actual document, and then they omitted the signatures from the doctor's presence, unlike previous notices.
First option, titles are frozen. The children's titles might simply be stopped by the palace. Just a silent freeze with no announcements or deletions. They would continue to be mentioned, but with no ceremonial inclusion, no future acknowledgement, and no active royal status.
Made the whole thing seem more bizarre. Meghan later claimed in interviews across Netflix and Oprah that Archie was denied a prince title due to institutional decisions, possibly rooted in race. Buckingham Palace's position was that Archie wasn't entitled to a title under current royal protocols, which reserve prince status for grandchildren of the monarch, not great-grandchildren, except for heirs in the direct line. Talking about her experiences on podcasts or things like that, or just posting a lot more pictures. It has drawn a lot of attention to the controversies surrounding her kids, her pregnancies, how the children came into the world, the whole thing. Everything she's done has only drawn more speculation and brought the controversies back up.
Wouldn't, for the rest of maybe Archie and Lily's life, they may deal with questions about this surrogacy. And the only people they have to blame are their own parents who have fueled these rumors.
A gradual decline. Quiet reclassification is the second option. The palace may categorize the kids as private people without drawing attention to itself. No news releases, no drama. As descendants live outside of the royal hierarchy, their names subtly appear on official pages. Formal removal is the third option. The action made feasible by the internal evaluation is the rarest and coolest. The monarch has the legal authority to completely revoke titles and recognition if paperwork is unable to confirm birth procedure or lineage criteria. Just a monarchy defending its line. No passion, no rage. And that's what this investigation's true message is. The crown endures forever. No one does. Meghan and Harry created an empire based on royal mystique. Yet everything may be destroyed with a single signature since the palace has the ink. Hit like so more people can see the truth before the story takes a new course. Leave a comment below and subscribe to receive every new royal twist.